Next up, let's take a look at the adjustments panel. And I think this thing is cool for a couple of reasons. It's right over here by default, where it's going to be above your layers palette. And I think it's cool for a couple of reasons, because before, if I wanted to get to adjustments, I had to go dig through a menu to get there, or remember the keyboard shortcuts. All right. Well, now it's right in front of you. And I think that's a really neat thing. The other thing about it is that it always adds an adjustment layer. Okay, because again, before you had to know where to find it in the menu, or that you could go to this little icon down here, and it was kind of a pain. But now the right way of doing things, which adjustment layers are the right way, is easy for you to do because it's right in front of you. Okay, so if you don't see the adjustments panel, just go up to your window menu and just go down to adjustments. And you'll see at the top is these little icons, and they're a little bit hard to figure out at first, but just know that the name is always right up here. So as you hover over, it tells you what adjustment you're going to add. So if we want to add levels here, we could add levels, and check out what happens. It doesn't open a dialog. It opens the settings for levels right over here on the right hand side. So if you've used Camera Raw before and liked the interface, that everything, there's no dialogues popping up over your image or whatnot, everything is consolidated on that right hand side, this is the same way. All right, so I make my adjustments right over here. Once I'm done with it, if I want to get back, just click on that little arrow, and that gets you back. And take a look at my layers palette. It's added an adjustment layer for me. I didn't have to go through the menu or know the tricks of the trade to do this. It's added an adjustment layer, which means if I double click on it, it takes me right back over to the levels adjustment. It remembers exactly where I changed my settings to, and it lets me change them again if I want, or I could always just reset everything and go back to nothing if I want. Okay, now I'm going to take this and drag it to the trash really quick and just kind of compare this. If I went up to image, adjustments, went down to levels, this is what we usually got, and then this is what we always had to do. Move it over to the side. Well, you don't have to do that anymore because, again, everything's right over here. All right, so let's say we do add a levels adjustment. And I'll go in here, I'll make a few tweaks to it. Okay, so we make some changes inside of levels. If you want to see the before and after, and I'll work through the icons down here, but you've got a little eyeball icon. Just click on it. That shows you without the level adjustment, and then that shows you with it turned on again. Okay, if you want to get back, so I've added my levels adjustment, but now I want to do something else. I can click on this return button here, and this takes me right back to the regular view. Just don't forget, you'll have that levels adjustment layer, which means if you ever need to get back to it, you can just click on it. Okay, and then there's another option here which just switches you to expanded view and just gives you a larger area for your palette over here. If that smaller one was a little bit too small, and it can be depending on what adjustment you're using, you can switch between the expanded view and the smaller view. Now the next one, this one's pretty interesting here. So what I'm going to do is actually let me jump forward to another button over here, which is the trash can, which means, you know what, I don't want this levels adjustment anymore. I'm going to click on the trash can. It gets rid of it, and of course choose don't show again, and just hit yes. So that the next time it's not even going to pop open that dialog. It'll just get rid of the adjustment. But let's say that we want to convert one of the photos over to a black and white. So I'm going to use the move tool and just move this top layer over toward the right a little bit. And maybe I'll actually come in here and just very, very quickly, I'm going to take my eraser tool and I'm going to go to my brush picker up here and use a very large soft edge brush. And I'm just going to erase the sides. I could do this with masks and compositing and all that, but really all I want to do is show you all my windows. It's not all I want to do. Sorry. Here we go. So what we've done here is I've just kind of composited both images together, but they're still two separate layers. Well, let's say I want to turn one of the images to a black and white. All right, so I would come over here to the black and white adjustment, click on it. Look what happens. It turns them both to a black and white. All right, and as I make changes, it's changing both images. But really, all I wanted to do is maybe turn this one over here to a black and white. Well, if you go down here to these little circles, what they do is it says this adjustment affects all layers below. Click to clip to the layer. So watch what happens when I click on this. See what happened? it just affects the layer directly below it now. It doesn't affect all the layers. It's created a clipping group here. So you can see that little arrow. It's saying this one just affects this guy right below it. And if you don't want it to, if you want to get it back to the way it was, just click on that icon again, and it's going to affect all layers below it. All right. And as we go through some of the other buttons here, you'll see the next one here, press to view previous state. You can just click on that. And what you're doing here is it's actually just showing you previous states of some of the changes that you're making inside here. So if I click on that and then click again, see how it just kind of shows me where I had it before. And when I let go, it shows me where I have it now. And I don't like that, so I'm going to move it back. All right, and then when we get back here, if you want to reset your changes to back to the default, so back to the settings that were in this dialog when it first opened, just click on that reset button, and everything goes back to the way it was when you first opened the dialog. Not so useful with the black and white. I'm actually going to delete that one, but very useful when you get into something like, let's say, curves. I come inside here, I make some changes. That's looking good, and then make some more changes. Now it's looking bad, and it gets even worse. So I want to get back to the way it was. Just click on that reset button, and the curve goes flat again. Okay, so that's your adjustments panel. Don't forget, if for some reason it happens to get hidden, or did you just accidentally closed it or something like that, you can always get to it right under your window menu. Just go down to adjustments, and it's a regular palette. So everything is done inside this palette. It's just like any other palette that you're used to using inside here in Photoshop.